All right. Wanted to have a follow-up conversation about AI and do that while I'm tuning this other Rhodes, which I've partially restored and is for sale. So if you're interested in a Fender Rhodes, this is a 1972. It's a little more reminiscent of a Whirly. It's like darker in tone, the early 70s. And yeah, I'd love to sell this to you if that's something you need for your studio.
And if they don't, I'm out a lot of cash.
My brother said I was channeling Bob Ross energy yesterday, so I thought that was interesting and very sweet of him to say. I received a little bit of pushback yesterday, which I expected I would, and I think is awesome, because I want to be fair. The pushback was around how everyone's being so negative about AI and not positive at all. I came up with 3 reasons, and 2 of them were criticisms from him. My new friend John, who's a great guy and great songwriter. Basically, my new friend's first objections was, well, what about someone in a developmentally disabled place who doesn't have access to all their faculties? Shouldn't they have access to something like generative AI? I would never, ever want to exclude someone who would want to use it as, music therapy. I think that's just amazing. Very thoughtful, very human, humbling way to think about generative AI. And I would totally support that. The second thing was hobbyists. If you're a hobbyist and you just want to make songs and show your friends and family, what's the big deal? Well, that totally does not affect me. It doesn't edge me out of any work, really. It doesn't affect us music professionals, really. If you want to do it as a hobby, please do it as a hobby. That said, it's almost like the forbidden fruit a little bit. I think once people get a taste, it's almost like taking a bite and being like, I did all of this. It's like the ring in the Lord of the Rings. You sort of all of a sudden have access to this power and you want to claim it for yourself. And I've seen this sort of dance of people skipping into commerce, being like, I made all of this and I want to sell this now, even though they didn't really do it. Suno generated most of it. I do have problems when it gets into commerce. I think it poisons the water, and it's ethically challenging to say I did all of this when Suno did the majority of the heavy lifting, whether it was generating lyrics or melodies. That's a problem. And one example is I had to produce a song recently that had a Suno demo, and the demo sounded so much like this CCM artist. Man, I would have had big problems if I would have heard that and been like, hey, that's my voice that's been generated to, sound like me, and it's being used in demos. That's weird. So we should be careful there. And the third positive, though, I think, is you could use it for rehearsal, for practice. I want to practice my shredding, my sweeping, generate some hardcore riffs for me for 15 minutes in this progression, and I'll practice my guitar. I think that's interesting. It could be great for practice, potentially. That said, especially with the younger generation, we want to encourage playing music with real people. So, yes, practice to a metronome. Practice with a robot, right? That's what a metronome is. But also play with humans. And for instance, sorry about that. On Sunday mornings when I've led worship and there's been a click and a guide, I've just often felt like there are moments where the band is not really listening to each other. They're playing to the click only. And in theory, that would sound really good, but some people play a little behind the click. Some people play a little ahead of the click. And they're so focused on, all right, when's the chorus? When's that guide going to tell me? When's the chorus? That they're not playing with each other. And I think there's something to be learned. Practice with a metronome. Sure, play a show with a metronome, but can you sound good playing music with other people by tuning in to what they're doing and having that beautiful dance that is being in a band? I certainly miss that when I don't have it in my life. Anyways, I wanted to delineate between professional use versus some other uses that could be very helpful and positive, and acknowledge that and say, I'm not going to condemn this technology wholesale, but professionals, just because you can doesn't mean that you should. I think we have to ask that question. We have to say, is this good for art? Is this good for our soul? Is this maximalist productivity or perception of productivity good for the process of music creation? Are people boxing out session musicians because they're like, I just want Suno to do the strings because I'm going to bury it or whatever? And so are more and more session players getting boxed out because Suno's doing the work? After all, it is modeled after humans. So there's something there that creates like an ethical dilemma. And then I've heard a lot about producers saying, well, if I turn in a vocal keys demo, the label's not excited about it. But if I turn in a Suno demo, they get stoked. And that's the one that gets me the most angry. If you are a music executive and you can't listen to a simple human demo and imagine what it could sound like fully fleshed out, I know that's the job of a producer, but if in the executive level, if you're celebrating robot demos over human demos, I think you should find another line of work. And I know that's offensive to you, but this is not just this is the way it's going, so adapt or get left behind. I think that's super lame, and we should encourage humanness, especially as we look at the next generation of artists. So a little bit of a soapbox there. If I can come back into the Bob Ross territory. Thanks for pointing out some short-sightedness maybe, or some other stuff that I needed to think about, my friend John. And I think the conversation has to keep going. I'm not going to cut people out of my life because of Suno, but I do want to challenge it. My opinions are strong. I want to be challenged. I want to substantiate my opinions and ultimately chart a course for more and more beautifully human art and less 24/7 productivity that only serves to wear us down. It's okay to slow down. It's okay to let the process be messy. It's okay to honor humans even when technology could do it faster. Those are my thoughts.